Step back from the vehicle, now.
It's my Range Rover. I'm loading my camera gear.
A photographer with an autobiography.
Yeah, sure.
Where'd you get the keys?
Same place you got that badge. Earned it.
What's your reasonable suspicion?
License, registration, right now.
I'm filming. If you're stopping me because I'm black with something expensive...
Officer Brett Miller had been with the Chicago Police Department for 12 years. For the last 8 of them, he worked the Gold Coast neighborhood, a place where old Midwestern wealth meets the sharp edge of modern tech fortunes. It's a place where Ferraris and Bentleys idle outside luxury boutiques and high-end roasteries. In those 8 years, he had accumulated 18 complaints. 18 separate incidents where black executives, Latino restaurateurs, and Asian investors were stopped, questioned, and accused of being in stolen vehicles or trespassing in zip codes where they lived or paid rent. Every single complaint had been dismissed as routine verification. His supervisors called him vigilant. His training officer called him thorough. No one called him what he actually was, a cop who couldn't accept that success and wealth weren't exclusive to white people, a man who saw expensive things in black hands and immediately assumed theft. On a Sunday afternoon in Chicago, everything about Brett Miller's protected career came crashing down. And I was the reason why. My name is Marcus Thorne. I had just wrapped a high-profile photography session at the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm a commercial photographer, and for the last 16 years, I've had my work featured in national magazines, global corporate campaigns, and gallery exhibitions. I spent nearly 2 decades building my reputation, my portfolio, and my business. I owned every piece of my equipment, outright top-tier bodies, professional strobes, heavy-duty stands. I also owned my Range Rover autobiography, which I'd purchased 2 years prior after landing my biggest contract to date. That afternoon, I was a 42-year-old black man in tailored selvage denim and a cashmere sweater, loading $50,000 worth of camera gear into a 6-figure SUV. To Officer Brett Miller, that only meant one thing. Something didn't add up. That false assumption triggered an escalation that would end in Miller's termination, a viral video with 15 million views and a $7 million lawsuit that would expose exactly how police use vehicle stops to profile successful people of color. Before I go further, where are you reading this from? If this story resonates with you, please share it. Stories like mine need to be told, and your support helps bring the truth to light. The Gold Coast, Chicago. A neighborhood where historic brownstones sit in the shadow of glass skyscrapers, where Michelin-starred restaurants compete with private clubs. The streets reflect the city's power and wealth. The Art Institute sat nearby, a cultural beacon drawing tourists from around the globe. I grew up on the South Side, the son of a union electrician and a nurse. I discovered photography in high school, shooting local basketball games and street life on a beat-up Nikon my uncle gave me. I parlayed that passion into a scholarship at Columbia College, then years of grinding as a second shooter, taking whatever gigs paid the bills while I honed my eye. My break came at 30 when a major athletic brand hired me for a campaign that went global. After that, the work multiplied. Editorial covers, billboards, museum installations. By 36, I was earning 6 figures. By 40, I bought my dream truck, the Range Rover. Santorini black tan leather interior. It was excessive and practical at once. It had the space I needed for my cases and the presence that matched my hard-earned success. That Sunday, I'd been hired to photograph a private gala at the museum, a hedge fund manager's retirement party. I shot portraits, candids, and atmosphere for 4 hours. My fee was $15,000. As the event wound down, I packed up my gear. 3 camera bodies, 6 lenses, lighting equipment, battery packs, everything meticulously organized in Pelican cases. I loaded it into the back of my Rover, which was parked on the street. Public parking meter, paid via app, completely legal. I had just closed the split tailgate when I noticed the patrol car pull up behind me. Lights off. Just watching. I had experienced this before. The assumption, the suspicion, the disbelief that I could possibly own what I owned. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Not because I wanted to fight, but because I needed documentation. Officer Miller had been patrolling when he saw my truck. High-end vehicle, black male loading boxes. Something triggered in his mind. Luxury SUV, black driver, probably stolen. He pulled up and stepped out, his hand instinctively resting near his holster. "Sir, I need you to step back from that vehicle right now." I kept my phone recording, ensuring my movements were slow and deliberate. "This is my vehicle. I'm loading my equipment." Miller's eyes scanned the heavy cases visible through the rear window. "Your vehicle. This is a Range Rover autobiography. You got proof of ownership. My registration is inside." I gestured toward the driver's side. "I'm a photographer. I just finished a shoot at the museum." Miller's skepticism was thick enough to choke on. "A photographer? Driving this? Where'd you really get the keys?" I felt that familiar mix of rage and exhaustion rising in my chest. "I bought it with money I earned. Why are you questioning me?" Miller stepped closer, invading my personal space. "Because vehicles like this get reported stolen all the time, and you fit a certain profile." There it was. The coded language. The assumption. My voice stayed level, but I made sure my words cut through the noise. "A certain profile? You mean black? Just say it. You don't think I can afford my own car?" "Asham, do you think officers should be required to have reasonable suspicion before demanding vehicle ownership proof? Let me know your thoughts." Miller's face flushed red. "I'm doing my job. I need to see your license, registration, and proof of insurance right now." I held up my phone, making sure the lens caught his badge number. "I'm going to reach for my wallet in my back pocket. I'm going to move slowly. I'm recording this entire interaction for my safety. Just get your documents." I pulled out my wallet and extracted my license. Marcus Thorne, Chicago address, clean record. I handed it over. Miller snatched it and walked back to his squad car. I waited, phone still recording, hyper-aware that this could go sideways in a heartbeat. I'd read too many stories, seen too many hashtags, black men in traffic stops, that ended in tragedy over absolutely nothing. A small crowd had started to gather. Tourists leaving the park. Locals walking their dogs. A white woman in her 50s approached cautiously. "Excuse me, are you okay? I saw the officer stop you." I nodded, keeping my eyes on the patrol car. "I'm fine, just being profiled for driving my own car." "That's Marcus Thorne," another voice chimed in. A young Asian man who had been a guest at the party. "He's the photographer from the event. That's his truck. I saw him load in earlier." Miller emerged from his patrol car, my license in his hand. My vehicle registration had come back clean. Owned by Marcus Thorne. No warrants, no violations. But instead of admitting the stop was baseless, Miller doubled down. "Sir, I'm going to need you to open the vehicle so I can verify the VIN matches your registration." My jaw tightened. "You already ran my license and registration. Everything came back clean. You have no probable cause to search my vehicle." "I'm not searching, I'm verifying." "Verifying what you've already confirmed I own the car. What you're doing now is harassment." The woman who had approached earlier spoke up, her voice sharp. "Officer, I watched this entire interaction. This man was loading his own equipment into his own vehicle. You stopped him without cause. This is profiling." "Ma'am, step back. This is official police business. I'm recording too, another voice called out. A black man in his 40s holding a leash. He had his phone raised. This is the third time I've seen you stop black drivers in expensive cars on this block. You never stop the white drivers. Miller's radio crackled. His supervisor was responding to the call. Dispatch, what's the situation there? Miller keyed his mic. Just verifying vehicle ownership on a suspicious stop. I spoke loudly, ensuring my microphone caught every syllable. There is nothing suspicious. I'm a professional photographer loading my equipment after a paid job. Officer Miller saw a black man with an expensive car and assumed it was stolen. He is profiling me based on race. Everything he is doing is illegal. A second patrol car arrived. Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran known for her no-nonsense approach, stepped out. She immediately assessed the scene, multiple civilians, recording one defensive officer, one calm civilian, and a luxury vehicle. She knew exactly what this was. Officer Miller, what's going on, son? Miller gestured to me. Suspicious vehicle, stop verifying ownership. Rodriguez looked at me, then at the Range Rover, then back at Miller. Did you run the plates? Yes, came back registered to him. So the vehicle's not stolen. No, but I wanted to verify. Rodriguez cut him off. You ran the plates. The vehicle is registered to him. He provided his license. What exactly are you verifying? Miller stammered, having no answer that wouldn't incriminate him. Rodriguez turned to me. Sir, I apologize for this stop. You're free to go. You've done nothing wrong. I didn't move. With respect, Sergeant, I'm not just leaving. I want this officer's name and badge number. I want to file a formal complaint because this isn't a mistake. This is racial profiling. He stopped me because he saw a black man with property and assumed I stole it. Rodriguez nodded slowly. You have every right to file a complaint. Officer Miller, return to your vehicle. I'll handle this. Miller walked back to his cruiser, his pride wounded, but his bias still very much intact. Rodriguez approached me. Mr. Thorne, I'm Sergeant Rodriguez. I want you to know what happened here is unacceptable. You were stopped without reasonable suspicion. The fact that your vehicle is expensive is not probable cause. The fact that you are black is not probable cause. I will personally ensure your complaint is documented and investigated. I appreciate that, Sergeant, but documentation isn't enough. I gestured to the crowd. This is the third person here who said they've seen Officer Miller stop black drivers. How many complaints does he have? How long has this been going on? Rodriguez kept her expression neutral, but I saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes. I can't discuss his personnel file, but I can tell you your complaint will be taken seriously. The young man from the party walked up. Marcus, I recorded the whole thing too. From the moment he pulled up, I'm airdropping you the file. Thank you. I looked at Rodriguez. I want copies of all body camera footage. I want the dash cam. I want every recording of this stop. You'll have access to all of it through the complaint process. Should officers who make pretextual stops based on vehicle value face immediate suspension, let me know what you think. I left 20 minutes later after giving my statement to Sergeant Rodriguez and collecting contact info from the 3 witnesses. I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Not from fear, but from the adrenaline of rage. It was the exhaustion of knowing that my success, my hard work, my legal ownership of my property meant absolutely nothing to a man who saw my skin color first. I posted the video to my Instagram, where I had about 65,000 followers. My network of professional photographers shared it. Chicago activists amplified it. By midnight, it had 2 million views. By morning, it was on the local news. By the afternoon, national outlets were running the headline, "Black photographer racially profiled during vehicle stop. Officer Brett Miller was placed on administrative leave within 48 hours. The Chicago Police Department issued a statement, "We take allegations of racial profiling seriously. The stop is under investigation." But the investigation revealed much more than one bad stop. My formal complaint triggered a review of Miller's record. 18 complaints in 8 years. 17 of them involved people of color being stopped in upscale neighborhoods or expensive vehicles. All dismissed. The pattern was undeniable. The police union initially tried to defend him, claiming he was following procedure. But once the video evidence went public, once the witnesses spoke out, and once the pattern of 18 complaints was revealed, even the union quietly stepped back. I connected with 11 other people who had been stopped by Miller. 11 Black, Latino, and Asian professionals who'd been pulled over, questioned, and humiliated. All of them had documentation. None had filed formal complaints because they didn't think it would matter. Now we stood together. We filed the lawsuit 6 weeks after the stop. 12 plaintiffs, myself, and 11 others. The claims were comprehensive racial profiling, Fourth Amendment violations, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The evidence was overwhelming. Statistical analysis showed Miller stopped drivers of color at a rate 9 times higher than white drivers. The city settled within 8 months. $7 million divided among the 12 plaintiffs. I received $1.2 million. I used a portion of it to launch a photography mentorship program for young creatives of color on the South Side. Officer Brett Miller was terminated 9 months after the stop. The termination letter was brutal and public. It cited his pattern of racial profiling and hostile encounters that violated civil rights. His name was entered into the National Decertification Index. He would never wear a badge again. He issued a weak statement through a lawyer claiming he never intended to discriminate just to prevent theft. My response was public and unforgiving. You didn't perceive anything wrong. You saw a black man with something expensive and assumed criminal activity. That's not a perception. That's racism. And you did it 18 times to 18 different people. That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle. The department implemented reforms, mandatory documentation of the reason for stop for every vehicle interaction, quarterly audits, immediate investigation for any officer with 3 profiling complaints. I testified at a state legislative hearing on traffic stop reform. I worked for 16 years to build my business. I told the committee, I saved for 2 years to buy my truck. I earned it, but none of that mattered to Officer Miller. He saw my skin color and expensive property, and his brain couldn't process that they could exist together legitimately. I looked them in the eye. I had witnesses. I had video. I knew my rights. But what about the delivery driver who doesn't have cameras? What about the kid driving his dad's car? What happens when racism is disguised as theft prevention and no one is watching? 3 years after the stop, I was invited to speak at the Art Institute in the auditorium, just steps away from where the incident began. I was loading my equipment into my vehicle. I said to the hushed room, my vehicle that I owned, my equipment that I earned. And a man with a badge saw that and couldn't believe it was real. Not because of evidence, but because his bias told him black people don't drive Range Rovers unless they stole them. That bias put me in danger. Armed officers responding to vehicle stops have shot people for less. I survived because I recorded everything, but survival shouldn't depend on the victim behaving perfectly. It should depend on the police not profiling us in the first place. Officer Miller's career is over. That's a consequence. We got a settlement. That's accountability, but money and firings don't change the fact that 18 people were profiled before the system blinked. The real question is, what changes now? Do we finally demand that our institutions stop viewing black success as suspicious, because if we don't fix the system that protected Brett Miller for 8 years, we are just waiting for the next viral video. We are waiting for the next person whose only crime was owning something nice while black. This story is a retelling based on true events. The names, ages, and locations have been changed to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. This narrative is shared for educational purposes to highlight the realities of racial profiling, the importance of knowing your civil rights, and the systemic issues that persist in law enforcement. It serves as a reminder that bias can have real-world consequences, and accountability is essential for justice. Success does not insulate you from prejudice, but knowing your rights and documenting injustice can be a powerful shield. This story teaches us that collective action, witnesses speaking up, victims banding together, and the community demanding transparency is the only way to dismantle systemic bias. We must challenge the assumption that wealth or success looks a specific way, and we must build systems that hold power accountable long before a pattern of behavior destroys a life.